Welcome to Vermontitude, a collaborative effort between Great Eastern Radio, the Brattleboro Reformer, and BCTV to bring you the stories behind the stories on the topics you want to learn more about. Because there's always more, so there'll always be Vermontitude. Hosted by me, Peter Fish Case. Welcome to Vermontitude. New episodes drop every Tuesday and can be found by going to vermontitude.com, reformer.com, or BCTV. We apologize for missing last week's episode due to a flood and had to relocate our studios to the Innovation Box on Flat Street. We hope that studio will be up and running for next week's show. Vermontitude is done in collaboration with Great Eastern Radio, the Brattleboro Reformer, BCTV. I'm Peter Fish Case, and each week I try to cover topics that are areas of concern for Windham County and Brattleboro, Vermont. Today, we are joined via Zoom with Lieutenant Jeremy Evans from the Brattleboro Police Department, and after many months of terrorizing Brattleboro and Windham County businesses, a suspect, James Owens, was apprehended. Lieutenant, welcome to Vermontitude.
Thank you, Fish.
All right, man, let's get into it. So this guy really kind of rankled the feathers of a lot of people in this town. But I guess we have to kind of slow it down. It's not as black and white for you as it is for us, for members of the Brattleboro Police Department. I know that this guy was sort of, to quote, I think a cop term, you like this guy for a lot of these things, but what does it take to build a case against somebody who is doing all these things?
Well, it takes a lot of background information. It's not as simple as just having a strong suspicion who it is. Like for several of these, we had to have some video footage that we're able to discern was him, or have some DNA, other types of circumstantial evidence to try and focus it so that when we present the case to the state's attorney's office, they feel comfortable bringing it to the court.
Okay. What was the guy's what was his downfall? What was the thing that just you gave you that action that you could just go in and finally cuff him and throw him in the back of a cruiser?
There was a few on him. There was some video footage, and then there was some investigative background to that where we were able to tie into a few things about like his location and what he was doing when he was doing it, and then take some video and some other evidence from some of the burglaries to just kind of tie it all together.
Okay. Now Owens was arrested on the 13 Christmas weekend burglaries initially. We know that there were a lot more than just 13 break-ins in the last few months. Does the police department suspect him for any of these other break-ins?
We do, definitely. There's a lot of burglaries that are still being investigated. I can definitely tell you he's not the only person who's a suspect in the burglaries. Well, I think there's a few people that we're looking at for the majority of the burglaries.
Okay. And as folks are kind of like, I know there's been a little bit of a lull since this has happened. It seems like, and again, as I said right before we got on the air, but I don't know that offhand because they don't call me when there's a problem, they call you. Is that an accurate statement that things have seemed to calm down a little bit since you arrested Owens?
Yes, things definitely calmed down with the burglaries once
He
was taken into custody.
But that's not to lull anybody into some false sense of security that this is done. What do you tell business owners, homeowners? What are the things they can do to prevent somebody from breaking into their home? And also let me just a little side note on that. I was reading somewhere that it takes roughly about 10 seconds to defer a criminal for a criminal to lose interest if they can't gain access into the place they're trying to get into quickly. Is 10 seconds, is that a realistic number?
I haven't heard the 10 seconds before,
Okay.
but definitely, depending on where they're doing the burglary, um, and if they, scope the area out prior to or whatever. Like if you're doing, I think just common sense would be if you're doing a burglary downtown,
Right.
um, and having difficulty getting in, you're going to be a lot quicker about making a decision not to do it than if you're in West Brattleboro at a residence with no neighbors.
Right.
Um, but I can tell you from most of the burglary stuff that we look at, if you lock up your home, there's a lot less chance you're going to get burglarized. Um, if you have even a rudimentary alarm system, something that makes a lot of noise, uh, that tends to deter a lot. Um, Motion lights at night definitely help. Um, those are kind of like the bigger things. Video cameras are obviously more and more coming on more and more as we go along for residences, as they get cheaper for people to purchase and put in.
Right.
Those don't necessarily, stop burglaries from occurring, but they do help us investigate them.
Okay. So I mean, pretty basic stuff then. We're not looking at extraordinary measures. Leaving a light on outside your home, locking your car. I read something that to me was a little disheartening on social media, but I find most anything that you read on social media a little disheartening. Uh, but somebody just said, I don't even lock my car. I don't leave anything in my car. I just leave it unlocked. Just because I just don't want a smashed window. They pull on the handle, it opens, they can rummage through, they won't find anything, and they leave. Is that a course of action that people should be doing? I mean, it seems crazy to me.
Um, I wouldn't recommend it. Um, I would simply recommend locking your car and not leaving valuables obvious inside the car.
Right.
Uh, for me, there's several people that are like, for instance, doing the cars. They'll go around and they'll just go through looking for unlocked cars. It's rare that we get someone smashing windows on a car to get into it. Usually it's just unlocked vehicles they go into. Um, a lot of the people that are doing these have some opiate addictions, or other things going on in their life. Um, I don't want in my car what they might leave behind. So I don't want to find needles, find blood, find remnants of drugs in my car. Um, so
Okay.
I'd like to avoid that if at all possible. So I keep my cars locked up. If I keep my cars locked up in the parking lot here at the PD, um, and I keep my car locked up at my house. And I, knock on wood, haven't had any problems with that.
All right. My father-in-law always used to lock the door, and he would always joke around and say, "Why are you locking it? You afraid somebody's going to put something in it?" Because we live out in the middle of nowhere, and I think you just answered that question. So, so yeah, I mean, it's a really valid point. I'm really glad that you brought that up. It's nothing I would have ever thought about, So yeah, you leave it unlocked so you don't get your window broken, but what do they leave behind in there is nothing probably that we would need to encounter. All right,
But
with
we also have fish. If I just throw out there too, like
yeah,
we've had several this year where they'll steal a car. Like people still leave their keys in their cars at their home, especially in the more rural areas. They don't worry about it. Um, they'll steal a car and then use that car to go around and do burglaries
right.
for the night and then dump the car. Um, that gives them more opportunity to get out more in the community and do more burglaries or more car break.
And that is from my understanding has been more common than you think. That I would think. I mean, it happened quite a bit. It was when I was read the Reformer article, when you folks finally apprehended James Owen, it would have seemed that he had stolen 3 or 4 different cars to commit these crimes. He dumped one in Keene, he dumped one in Wilmington, he dumped one over the embankment where McNeil's used to be. It just so it is a very common thing. So that's something to be really thinking about, that you might not just be preventing this guy from damaging your property, but if you leave it open and it's access like that, somebody can take your car and commit these crimes.
Definitely.
Is that a frequent thing that happens?
It's I don't know if I want to say frequent, but it consistently happens.
All right. In the case of Owens, I imagine that this guy is still behind bars.
He was when I left work Friday. He was. I haven't checked this morning.
All right. And what does it look like before he's formally brought up on charges?
Well, he
What-
was. He was arraigned
Okay.
on several burglaries, and was held on bail. So the next step in that will probably be some motion hearings over through the court for the attorneys, going back and forth on however they're going to move forward.
Right. And is that can that be I would imagine for a police officer, sometimes that can be a frustrating process.
Yeah, just like it can be for anyone, definitely.
Right. No, I'm not singling you guys out. So hopefully everybody has done this. Look, I gotta say hats off to the Brattleboro Police Department for finally wrangling this guy and getting him off the street. So thank you for that. And as always,
You're welcome.
you and the PD, thank you for all your service. Anything else as far as like preventative uh things that people can do? I often thought if you just put a sign on your door that just says no cash inside, is that a deterrent? Does that help?
Um, you mean like at your business?
Yeah.
To say, um, I don't know. To be honest, I couldn't tell you if there's stats on that or not. Um, but I guess I don't know.
All right.
Best
It's an
answer.
honest answer. I don't know. I know it was getting really frustrating there for a while, and people were really just scratching their heads and just kind of wondering when this was all gonna come to an end, and it did. Again, thank you. Lieutenant, I know you're busy, so I'll let you go. Thanks for jumping on Vermontitude.
Oh, thank you, Fish. Have a good day.
You too.